Hi. So, as you know me, I am wandering the way of the spheres day in, day out. And yesterday I came across a thought that was new and exciting, but also seemed obvious just after a moment. And that has to do with another four-sidedness of space-time, because when we're looking at space-time synergetically in terms of the whole, in terms of the spheres, but not the Greek spheres that are lifeless, but the actual animate matter of space-time, we find the minimum constellation of anything, anybody, any spheres that creates a sphere of its own, which has a membrane binding an inside to an outside around a common center of gravity. That is the minimum sphere. That is the four eyes. These spheres are very high, complex frequency spheres, each their own, whereas these ones here are a lot less complex in some regards, more complex in other regards, but it's the same structure. And this kind of structure of four spheres with its four sides kind of shows a general behavior pattern of space-time which has to do with four. So when we're playing with triangles, it's actually quite difficult to not have four of a kind whenever we create one. It's got to do with the whole being a dozen, and the way to play with the whole is in sets of three to make triangles, make eyes. And anytime we have to do with a dozen and three, a third of a dozen is four. There is that connection. So, what is the exciting bit after so much talk? The exciting bit came to me as I was washing the dishes, and I was contemplating this very marvelous and outstanding quality of space-time to be either with a vertex or convex, meaning curved on the outside, so that anything coming at this would be dispersed and shed, or being hollow, or with a cave, concave, which is to be able to hold on to things, to collect things, to member and remember. Now, that is something that's like the two sides of every sphere, because every sphere is the membrane binding the inside of the sphere to the outside, meaning the whole sphere is the whole of universe. And every sphere has this two-sidedness to it of being concave on the inside and convex on the outside. So we share that, we have that in common with everyone. However, there is, with growing complexity in structures and systems, more and more ways in which there is two more sides, not just inside and outside, as concave and convex, but there's also kind of outside-inside and inside-outside, meaning I can have a structure as a sphere, and right now it's mostly, approximately, convex on the outside. It does have some dents, but that comes with being a sphere. However, if I dimple it, right, if I, Bucky called it dimpling, if I push in one of the corners of this one, whoop, now it has a dimple. And that's a concavity, a hollow on the outside, right? It's just like the bowl. It's if we don't look at this too deeply, I mean, that's another concavity on the outside, fractals. But yeah, we have the same essential thing here. We find that we now have not just a convexity outside, but also a concavity outside. But mind you, every membrane has both sides to it, in and out. So every time we have a concavity on the outside, we also simultaneously have on the inside of that membrane a convexity. So that's what I said, or what I meant when I said that rather than just having inside and outside, with the simple distinction of one being the shedding convexity, which moves on, and every time it meets another, it gets a little more round, and everything that comes into it and onto it is being dispersed and shed. That's the basic sense of outsideness in synergetics, this property, whereas it always complements with the insideness being collecting, being concave. But we never ever have these things separately anyways, and that is like where that the intersections lie between synergetics or spherical thinking as a practical geometry, as a praxis, a practice of living with Zen and Taoist teachings, because or Buddhists, people who have they never lost the understanding, I guess. They never lost the sense that there is nothing separate in the universe. The inside is always coming with the outside. They are, as the Buddhists say, mutually arising, co-arising. And that is the way of the Tao, that is the way of the spheres. Every inside comes with an outside, and in other words, you and I and everyone else has their insights. They have their convexities outside, which shed light, so we can see one another and we resonate in sound and experience. We have all our antenna, our hair growing out there. But we also have lots of concavities on the outside, and then playing with that nestedness of insides and outsides within the organism. It's really quite essential, but also fun. And it's for instance, one way in which this might be interesting to consider practically is in terms of the brain, right? People are very focused on their brain, thinking, no, this is the thinking part, this is me, when really our identity is both our inside and outside. So universe is our true identity, and we can't separate out ourselves from the universe, and neither can we separate out our brain of our organism. But people think in the terms of the brain, and they see it's two-sided. It's got two hemispheres connected. So basically, we see the brain as a pair of spheres. They come together and basically get in balance between one another. But indeed, since there is concavity inside and outside, and convexity inside and outside, these two spheres have, they are actually 4 spheres at least. They are their inside spheres and their outside spheres, plus all those bits, just as in our intestines. Wherever we need to accommodate the polyforms and the manifold kin of the soil, of the waters, the food within our own organism, minding ourselves with the entirety of ourselves in mind. When we do that, we need to do these foldings, these wraps, and we don't need to, it's just a way to do it. There is no other way to do it. But I think it's a very fascinating thought to contemplate and to consider in terms of looking for sets of 4 within all of this universe, be it the 4 bases of DNA that come in triplets, in pairs which come in triplets, or be it the 4 integrities, the whole, the integrity of pattern, the integrity of tension, the integrity of the individual. There's always a fourfoldedness. Even Bucky's favorite example of asking someone to draw a triangle on the ground and then asking them, how many triangles did you draw? And they would say, well, I drew 1. And Bucky would point out, well, actually we've drawn it on the membrane of the earth. So there is a finiteness to that. And if we've drawn 1 triangle on the membrane of earth, let's pick one, this one, then there is both the inside triangle of this, meaning the small one we consider, and its complementary outside, which goes around the whole of Earth, which is also an area bound by 3 sides and 3 angles. But since we also have the Earth membrane being convex on the outside, and with that congruently, co-arisingly on the inside, it being concave, with that we have to actually consider the triangle that we drew not just as the inside and the outside one, but those count twice for being both concave and convex. So even just drawing a single triangle gives rise to a set of 4. I guess the implications of that are manifold and fun to ponder, but I guess this might have been enough for today. Let me know if you've got any feedback, any thoughts around this, and hope to see you soon, somewhere along the way of the spheres. Take care, and peace be with you.